Good morning, everyone. I hope you can see me correctly. My name is Henri Rajbenbach, working with the European Commission in the electronics and photonics industry unit. And this session, session 14, will cover 6 topics and 3 main areas. The first 2 topics will be around ultra-low power processors, planned to be presented by my colleague Panos, but I will do the presentation. Then we'll move on with 3 topics under electronics and photonics. I will present 1 topic on flexible electronics and functional electronics. And my colleague Werner, who you can, I hope, see on the screen, will present 2 topics on photonics. And last but not least, Rémi Bayou will present one topic on 6G and connectivity. With that, I think you have access to the Slido. Don't hesitate to put your question there or under the chat. And with that, we'll go through the different presentations, and we'll keep the questions at the end of the session. So the first topic, if I can have the slides. Okay. I do need to share my screen now. Okay. Right. Thank you. Okay. Maybe go back to the first slide. Okay. So the first topic is called ultra-low power secure processors for edge computing. Panos Chachopoulos was expected to come, and he cannot make it today. So if you have any question I cannot answer, I will forward to him for directly reply by mail. So what is next slide, please? What is the expected outcome for these ultra-low power secure processors for edge computing? Of course, as the title says, to develop European secure specialized microprocessor designs, and that also includes accelerator and controllers that would deliver high performance computing at ultra-low power operation. And to put some figures on this power reduction, we have put as a target to improve by at least 2 orders of magnitude the performance per watt for the targeted edge applications. And we'll come back on example of those applications. Next slide. Then two aspects, the approach and the targeted application. The approach is, of course, here a non-exhaustive list, but it's, as you see, it's a very, very advanced technologies trying to exploit the low power potential of neuromorphic processing, the fast access from the processor to the memory in memory computing, neural network, programmable logic, hardware-software co-design. The co-design is a key issue there, and open source hardware and processor IPs. In terms of applications, of course, again, here is a non-exhaustive list, but some that we have put forward are automated driving, artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision, machine translation, speech recognition, etc. So the full set and a broad set of potential application that we ask to be put forward in the proposal. Next slide. Next slide is how we we put the level of innovation in this type of proposals. Proposals should have a longer-term perspectives and take into account the surrounding constraints and the situation. For example, the reduced performance improvement of general purpose computing, the slowdown of Moore's law, and the changing economics of semiconductor manufacturing. And so those to be taken into account. Proposal also should include research on advanced hardware-based security directly at the silicon level. Also take into account certification guideline when it is relevant. May include or should include preliminary analysis to bring the research towards the market, and in the proposed research, either as IP blocks or as standalone chips. And also can be included in those type of projects. Next slide. Some figures about this topic. The budget, 26 million euro. We are calling for research and innovation actions, and typically EU contribution per project in the 8-10 million euro brackets. So you see here in this topic, we would have 2 or 3 projects running. And the TRL, the technology readiness level that we expect are from proposals to start from TRL 2.3 and to end up to TRL 4.5 by the end of the project. Next slide, please. Now, let me introduce the CSA, Cooperation and Support Action on Open Source Hardware for Ultra-Low Power Secure Processors. Again, if there are any question I cannot answer, Panos will do that later. Next slide, please. So this is a CSA, and the CSA would have 2 expected outcomes. The first one is about structuring European involvement in open source hardware efforts. And that also includes open instruction set architectures. And this is for the design of ultra-low power secured microprocessors, microcontrollers, and accelerators too. Together with putting the European community together, the second objective or outcome that is expected is to have a roadmap for open source hardware in Europe, covering both R&D and the funding and business aspects. And that's for edge in all power and performance ranges, from deeply embedded to high-end computing. So 2 expected outcomes. Next slide. Here is a list of issues that we think might be relevant to address. The availability of sustainable and reliable open hardware IP supply, maturity of the IP components, design tools, compilation, simulation, verification, and real-time and mixed criticality. Again, this is a non-exhaustive list. And of course, important to bring together all European stakeholders to further develop and grow the European open source hardware ecosystem, align with related regional and national initiatives covering both academia and industry, interfacing with national effort in the area, including certification for the design of IP to be used in safe, secured application. and participate and lead in the development of open source hardware standards and specification. That's an important aspect in this call. Next slide. For this CSA action, we have an available budget of 2 million euro, and we call for a CSA of around 2 million. So will be one CSA supported under this topic and one project. And I think that is all for this topic, right? And I think we can move to the next one. So the next one would be, okay, thank you. So this topic is about functional electronics for green and circular economy. Next slide. This is, as I was mentioning, the European Innovation Leadership in Electronics and Photonics. This is one topic of 2021, functional electronics for green and circular economy. This topic will be complemented to some extent by another call next year, which I will not discuss here, on advanced multi-sensing systems. So let's move on this functional electronics for green and circular economy. Next slide, please. Well, let me put forward this slide to show how complex is the technology landscape and how important it is to integrate more and more technologies. Under functional electronics, we have different aspects of integration: flexible and wearable electronics, nanoelectronics, and smart integrated systems. So here in this complex landscape, the call will focus on flexible and printed electronics. And the emphasis here, as you see on the right side of the slide, is about co-design and eco-design. So this is a clear emphasis for calling for green aspects and adjusting to the Green Deal in this topic. Next slide, please. So as I was mentioning, functional electronics is a new term putting forward a holistic approach about integration of technologies. This call will cover basically flexible and wearable electronics, and also taking into account some aspect of integration in electronic smart system and the use of advanced nanoelectronics. But the center of gravity will be on flexible and wearable electronics. Next slide. The budget which is allocated to this topic is a significant 35 million euros. The call has opened, as you all know, and we close end of October, 21st of October. For this topic, we are calling research and innovation actions, and the individual projects with EU contribution between 3 and 5 million euro. As far as TRL, technology readiness level, we start quite low, 2-3, expecting to end up the project at TRL 4-5. So it's a very research centered. Next slide, please. What are the expected outcomes for this topic? Of course, in terms of technology, European leadership in the area of flexible, printed, and organic electronics, putting forward new concepts, design, and technology for circular economy and sustainability. So you see the green logos there is just to insist on the green aspect of this call. Last expected outcome is to demonstrate next generation components and systems that will deliver climate neutral digital solutions. So the scope for this this call, if you look at functional electronics as a whole, is rather limited, focusing on flexible and printed electronics. So we scope technological breakthroughs in functional electronics technologies, addressing the challenges and opportunity of the green and digital transformations. And for the proposed solution, the application of eco-design principles, both in terms of the reduction of energy, of resources and resources consumption, but also low cost, lightweight, and less energy intensive approach. Next slide. So the focus, as I was saying, is the use of different type of substrates, for example, flexible, stretchable, and conformable substrates. Integration of those into textile, plastic, glass, paper, and metal. So a large set of different supports. Improvement of system characteristics in terms of performance, robustness, and reliability. And taking into account at this very early stage the issue of manufacturing processes. So making sure that the new substrates, the new materials, the new process are manufacturable. Application domains are quite broad. Of course, wearables is coming as the first one, but also mobility, healthcare and well-being, agriculture and environment, energy, and smart logistics. Eco-design principles to be applied, recovery and recycling solutions, and optimization of the use of resources. Next slide, please. What you see on this slide, which I've entitled "How much eco is eco," are a set of principles of eco-design, which were published quite some time ago, and we would expect in proposal that all those are addressed, starting off from raw materials, ending up with the end of life for the devices and components. So eco-design is an important aspect on this for this topic. Next slide. I think this is ending up the presentation on the functional electronics. And now, without further ado, I will hand over to Werner, who will present the two topics on photonics. Werner, the floor is yours.
Hello, thanks, Henri. I just being with my double head, I'm also the Slido moderator. We have a couple of questions on Slido on these topics you just presented, Henri. I can read out the questions and you can try to answer. Is that a good method?
Yeah, okay.
Good. First one. That's on the on the topic on the microprocessors. When it says European secure specialized microprocessor design, does it mean that the participation of big non-European companies is to discourage, for example, Intel or IBM? Over to you.
Okay, no, well, the answer is no. We do not discourage entities like Intel or IBM to be part of projects. In fact, they are already part of many of the current R&D projects. If they operate in Europe, and if we can easily see the European added value of this partner, then that's fully okay.
Perfect. Then there is a question on the CSA. What do you see as the best approach to ensure balance between internationalization and ensuring European sovereignty in this area? So,
well, I mean, indeed, I mean, European sovereignty is an important aspect, but that does not preclude interaction and contribution from outside Europe, in particular for CSA. So the context is a worldwide context, and we're quite open. So yes, when it comes to semiconductor fabrication, the issue of sovereignty is part of the topic of the CS to address this sovereignty issue. I see. Yeah.
Many thanks. And then on a similar note,
I see.
Please.
Can integrated photonic components be a small part of the flexible printed organic electronic system? Yes, the answer is yes. We consider flexible electronics as something broad in terms of substrate, yes, but of course, any embedding of IC and photonic devices are relevant. If you insert a sensor onto a flexible substrate, there might be a lot of photonics involved for the detection, for the sensing itself. If you want to connect two electronic devices within a flexible substrate, you might want to use light through fibers to connect that. So yes, photonic components. The core is not about developing the photonic component itself, but about integrating these photonic components, whether they are sensor, source, detectors, etc., into a flexible substrate, and to do that at a cost-effective way, in a cost-effective way. So we do not exclude photonic technologies in this topic 0131. What exactly mean making? Yeah, I think the next question is related, and it's about a different type of substrate. So open access, yes, as much as possible. Would the evaluators being instructed to consider the European independency? Well, yes. I mean, this is part of the context. So the answer is is yes, and also projecting of the future investments in semiconductors in Europe. That's also important to consider. So yes, Werner, any?
Yeah, there's one more question. Can you see it for the CSA proposal? Are there any communities you identify as compulsory for the CSA to address?
No, I'm afraid I cannot answer this question. I will forward that to Panos. I think you'll get a clearer answer. But I guess it's related to the activity and the key stakeholders, and those to build a roadmap. And for a roadmap, you need the key technology providers to understand their own roadmap and to put that together.
Okay. And then the last one, it's on the multifunction electronics question regarding the integration in various structures and materials. Yeah, but it seems to be out of context.
Well, it's about yeah, I mean, it's about fabricating flexible devices,
right,
and integrating them in the right support. And of course, it's a long list here, but from textile, plastic, glass, paper, and metal. So that's all the support at the end where the devices will be operating.
Okay. Very good. I think then, many thanks, Henri. I think then we can go to the photonics topics. So the slides are already appearing. Many thanks. So I'm going to present two topics actually. First of all, welcome also from my side to these information days, to this track on the photonic and electronic topics. My name is Werner Steinhögel, and I'm head of sector for the Photonics partnership. And I'm going to present the two photonics topics. The first one is on advanced optical communication components. Next slide, please. This one is not so important. It just says that we have 6 topics in the work program for electronic and photonics. Next slide, please. Many thanks. So this topic has a budget of 26 million euro. It calls for innovation actions, and project size we think is good for this topic is 4 to 6 million euro. In terms of technology readiness levels, it should advance the technologies from level 3 or 4 to 5 to 6. So demonstration in a relevant environment. Next slide, please. What do we expect in terms of outcome? So we are in the communication field. 5G is abundant, and the technologies which come after 5G. And this is a activity on the components and on the subsystems. And we would like to achieve that the latency in the communication is improved with guaranteed service qualities, and so that it becomes very reliable. This is, for example, important for the industrial environment, for the digital transformation of industrial processes. Another aspect is that if the data is machine data and normal communication data together, to reduce this congestion in the data communication. So often there's a demand that multiple communication applications run over the same network, and they compete for simultaneous delivery. And the components and subsystems which are developed here should help to prevent data loss or delay. The third aspect we want to look at is the power consumption. So it should be reduced to some picojoule per bit. And this should happen by a broader use of optical networking technologies, optical interconnects, and integrated optical components. And the fourth aspect is the cost or price aspect, if you want. So the developed components should help to lower the barrier for the uptake of performant communication technologies. So the cost for the transmission interface should be reduced to around 50 cents per gigabit and per second. What does this mean in terms of research? We are going to see on the next slide, please. So what is the scope of this activity? It's about developing photonic components and subsystems for time deterministic and time sensitive networks. So that time guarantees can be given, or even stronger for the time determinism. And this component should also help to make the network ultra dynamic, so that it can be easily reconfigured with simple means, ideally by software. And this can be achieved, for example, by looking at new optical wavelength bands, to look at space division multiplexing, to use new integration schemes, to employ new methods for optical switching and new switching paradigms. The solution should enable ultra-dynamic reconfiguration on the optical layer to support a network that can react to different workloads and different demands. The solution should also help to mitigate power transients in the amplifiers, and they should help to save energy and to improve the efficiency of the bandwidth. The work should be driven by use cases, so should not be on standalone components or subsystems, but they should be driven by applications, for example, in the industrial internet, but also other commercial applications which require this time sensitivity or time deterministic approach. And then I think this is it on this topic, and we can go to the next one, please. Next slide. Which is on advanced photonic integrated circuits. This is a call about RIA projects. The project size should be between 3 and 5 million euro. The total budget is 39 million euro, as you can read on the slide, and the level of technology readiness should be increased from 2 to 3 to 4 or 5. So that's a validation in an industrial relevant environment. Next slide, please. The outcome for the photonic integrated circuits topic is, first of all, to develop the next generation of photonic integrated circuits and devices. Very important in this activity is to enable industry to fabricate such devices, to mass manufacture such devices. And the means is, of course, integration and miniaturization of the photonic components, be it a laser or be it a photodetector or be it waveguides. All these components should be put together and on one chip. By this integration, we hope that the barrier the use of photonic integration technology is reduced. So it's also important to see that users that it becomes easier for users to work with photonic integrated circuits. And then the fourth outcome is a more political one. It's to help Europe to ensure strategic autonomy, but not at every cost. So we prefer to talk about open strategic autonomy in photonic integrated circuits and the manufacturing processes. So in my words, to reinforce the position of Europe so that Europe has masters this important technology. But of course, they can also cooperate with other parts in the world where it makes sense. Next slide, please. On this slide, I'm going to lead you through the scope, what is actually the research. But first, I would like to mention the application areas. They are actually not limited. So the idea is it's open where these photonic integrated circuits are going to be used. It could be in a biomedical environment, in medtech, for example. It could be in environmental area to measure or to monitor environmental data. It could be in the industrial area. It could be in automotive. So it's open. The idea is always to enhance the functionality compared to the state of the art and also spectral coverage. And this could happen by looking at the design of photonic integrated circuits, at the integration aspect itself, at the fabrication, at the assembly, and at the packaging technologies. And so we believe it's not enough to cover one of these aspects. They should all be addressed to some extent. Sometimes it makes sense to co-integrate the circuits, the photonic circuits with electronic components. If this makes sense, this is also welcome in this call. Also in this topic, the project should be driven by use cases, and we require that there would be at least 2 application-oriented use cases that drive the development of the integration technologies. And the last point is there should be a perspective that integration platforms are established, so that the developed technology should not only serve one very specific application, but have a broader use. And by this, we want to achieve that more user companies are addressed. Okay, and I think this brings me to the end of the presentation, and there might be questions. Ori, you have identified any questions on Slido? I'll try to.
Yes, let me look at the Slido. Can you see the Slido?
Yeah, I try.
There is one question, I think, that.
Okay.
The question. Yeah. Go ahead. I have the question. Is it mandatory that the application cases are fully in line with the Green Deal? Are application dealing with fossil fuels a disadvantage?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Ori. My quick answer would be read carefully the call text. there's not the requirement are fully in line with the Green Deal. The applications are open, they should make sense. Yeah, so that would be my simple answer. So I think it's useless to speculate, but if there's an application with fossil fuels and it helps to save the fossil fuels, to use less of them, of course, it would make sense.
Yes, there is a question.
Yeah, for the digital emerging, so that's the optical components, TLS 3 to 6. Why is it innovation action? Yeah, we believe that these are applied topics and they would be dealt better in an innovation action. We wanted to stress this. So, and this range is okay also for innovation action.
SME and startups acting as technology providers must receive support. What is the definition here of technology providers?
Okay.
Werner, you take this one?
Yeah, I struggle a bit. What is 110? Which which topic is that? I don't think it's a photonic topic. Oh.
Indeed, 110 is AI data and robotics. So I'm not sure this question is for this session.
Yeah.
Well. Okay. Indeed. Yep. Okay, we can move on then. The video, you mean the next presentation? Yes. Yes, I think, yeah, I think it's now the right time to move to the next presentation, which is a video recording from Rémi Bayou, who is also attending, so he will be there to answer your questions. So yes, you can launch the video of the last presentation. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Rémi Bayou from the Commission. I will present you the topic Cluster 421, Digital Emerging 0126, Coordination of European Smart Networks, CSA. We are calling for one CSA for up to 3 million euros. This is in the context of moving from beyond 5G research to 6G research. From the 5G PPP under Horizon 2020 to the 6G Smart Networks and Services Partnership, a joint undertaking in Horizon Europe. These programs are supported by a CSA. The 5G PPP has a CSA supporting its activity until August this year. However, projects are running till 2023 for the 6G projects. And for the new partnership, the SNS partnership, we expect that the operations will start next year. So we need a bridging activity to be supported. So this new partnership will deal with 6G research on the horizon Europe with 900 million euro of budget, and with the second pillar, which is the 5G deployment through CEF and RRF calls. This new partnership is expected to be adopted end of this year, with the first Horizon Europe calls early next year. This CSA will establish a wide platform to address communication network technologies and systems for 6G global developments. This new partnership has two pillars. I present here a few topics under Horizon Europe. For 6G, we will need higher capacity, zero-touch networks with new spectrum challenges and new bands, terahertz bands, flexible spectrum use. We will need advanced radio processing, antenna processing, ultra-high security, ultra-low energy, and EMF-aware networks, electromagnetic fields-aware networks. New opportunities and needs are appearing to regain position in smart devices and networks data processing for new classes of application in the context of Internet of Things, including digital twins, holograms. The vertical industries are still a challenge, and all this in a value chain perspective, in particular with microelectronics. Second pillar is about STEP and CEF and relates to 5G corridors for connected and automated mobilities, smart communities, and those high-speed networks are required to be able to deploy AI, cybersecurity, and blockchain. The scope of the expected proposal covers the stakeholder management towards research and innovation in orientation, SNS projects coordination and cooperation, cartography of European relevant initiatives in the 6G fields, and in particular with member states, the management of website, the technical working groups management, and organization of issues of common interest, and white papers, and coordination of some standardization activities, development of the EU 6G vision, and the different phases and aspects of its technological realization. The international cooperation is also an important aspect with key third countries, and in the context of industrial benefits for European players. The CSA is expected also to support the organization of key conferences and dissemination events, including the yearly EU CNC conference. We leave you now with the last information. 3 million sailing for one proposal, and for further reading you will find more about the industry proposal here, the strategic research and innovation agenda that the new partnership will implement, the Council regulation, the Single Basic Act, and its preparatory impact assessment. This concludes my speech. I thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you, Rémi. Now I'm looking at the Slido, see if there are any questions for you. I think the The answer is no. The call mentioned the European Partnership for Photonics. What does exactly mean? Is it a requirement? Okay, now the call indeed mentioned the European Partnership for Photonics, the Photonic Partnership, and the content of the call is an implementation of the objective of this Photonic partnership. Industrial association or part of the partnership to participate and submit a proposal under Horizon Europe. So that should be clear. It's open to all participants, regardless of what part of the party or not. Werner, you want to complete on that?
You summarized it nicely. Many thanks, Henri. I'm just mentioning the strategic research and innovation agenda of the Partnership for Photonics. So the essence of the call is actually taken from this roadmap. But as you said, Henri, it's open to all the participants who are eligible in Horizon Europe.
Yes, maybe a question for Remy. I don't know, Remy, if you're online. Why does the SNGJU close to association countries?
Well, further question doesn't relate to this info day and this call, but the GU is a commission industry, mainly partnership with memberships of member states in the course of its establishment and not yet established. So I couldn't say that it's close to. We have been starting to work with the member states, the EU member states, in particular in the context of adopting the regulation. After that, there will be in the governing board member state group that can allow to have associated countries joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Remy. Are there any other question through our Slido? What do you mean by sex and gender analysis? Werner, maybe a related question to the previous one on photonics. What exactly means this topic implements the co-program European partnership in photonics?
Yeah, thank you, Henri. I think we answered this one already. The topic stems from the strategic research and innovation agenda, and the partnership of Photonics has the objective to work on the core technologies, and this is what is meant with implementation of the co-program partnership. For the participants, it's open. All the ones who are eligible in Horizon Europe are also eligible for this call. Over. Anything else?
Well, I don't really see anything else No, not on Slido. On the chat, do we have any question? I don't see. No, there is nothing left on the chat. So maybe we can close this session, and again, we can reply to your question. There was one left open, and if you have any other further question, don't hesitate to contact us, Werner, myself, or Remy, for the different topics. With that, I would like to thank you all for your attention. I hope this session was informative, and we remain at your disposal for questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, Werner and Remy. Thank you to Kevin for the organization and the smooth running of this Zoom meeting with the Slido. It was a first experience for me, and I know it was also first experience for Werner. So we managed with less staff than we expected. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of the day and of the sessions for this info day. Bye bye.
Bye, also from myself.